She didn't cry. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't make the kind of scene that makes people at other tables stop eating their dinner to stare. Elena simply stared at the condensation sliding down the side of her wine glass, tracing the path of a single drop of water with her eyes, and she whispered the verdict she'd been carrying in her chest for 20 years. "No one wants to date me. No one stays, Mark." She said it so quietly that it almost got lost under the sound of the rain hammering against the restaurant window. It wasn't a question. It wasn't a plea for a compliment or a fishing expedition for pity. It was a statement of fact. It was like saying the sky is gray or the rent is due on the 1st. "I've done the math," she continued, refusing to look him in the eye. "I'm 44. I'm tired. And the reality is, no one stays." She had said versions of this sentence to 5 men in the last 3 years. Most of them didn't even finish their drinks. They saw the heaviness in her eyes, checked their watches, and found a polite excuse to leave before the appetizers arrived. But across the booth, Mark froze. He was a big man, a general contractor with shoulders that filled the space and hands that were rough and scarred from 30 years of handling lumber and drywall. He had a piece of bread halfway to his mouth, but he put it down slowly on his plate. Most men would have panicked. They would have made a nervous joke to lighten the mood. But Mark didn't move. He didn't look at the exit. He looked at her. He didn't see a crazy woman. He didn't see baggage. He saw a crack in the foundation. And Mark was a man who fixed foundations for a living. "Excuse me?" Mark asked. His voice was deep, rumbling like a diesel engine idling in a driveway. Elena flinched. It was a micro-movement, almost invisible to the naked eye, but Mark saw it. It was the flinch of someone who expected to be scolded. The mask she wore, the mask of the chill, easygoing girlfriend, snapped back onto her face instantly. It was a reflex, faster than thought. "Nothing," she said, letting out a breathless, nervous laugh. She waved her hand dismissively. "Forget I said that. Seriously. I don't know why I said that. It's the rain. This weather always makes me say stupid things. Just ignore me. I'm great, really." She smiled. It was a dazzling, practiced smile. It was the same smile she had used to survive 3 bad breakups, a messy divorce, and a childhood with a father who used silence as a weapon. Mark leaned back against the red leather of the booth. He wasn't buying it. "You don't look great," Mark said. He wasn't being mean. He was just being accurate. "I am, I promise," Elena insisted, her voice rising in pitch. She was scrambling now, trying to pivot the conversation away from her feelings. She grabbed the menu, using it like a shield. "So, tell me about the job site. You said the framing was delayed? I love hearing about construction. It's so interesting." She was deflecting. She was turning the spotlight back on him, making herself small, making herself the audience so he could be the star. She had read in a dozen magazines that men love to talk about themselves. So, she became a mirror. Mark watched her do it. He didn't answer her question about the framing. He was studying her, the way a structural engineer studies a load-bearing wall that is starting to bow under too much weight. If you have ever felt like you had to hide your true self or mold your personality just to keep someone from leaving you, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel right now. It helps this story reach other people who might be feeling invisible today. Thank you. Now, let's see what happens next. "Elena," he said. "Yes?" she chirped, her eyes wide and attentive. "Why are you sitting like that? Like what? Like you're trying not to touch the back of the chair." Elena paused. She hadn't even realized she was doing it. Her muscles were coiled tight, her spine rigid. She was perched on the edge of the seat, taking up as little room as physically possible. Just then, a waiter bustled past with a tray of sizzling fajitas. As the kitchen doors swung open, a blast of icy air from the hallway hit their table. Elena's shoulders jerked up toward her ears. A violent shiver rippled through her body. The goosebumps on her bare arms were visible even in the dim, ambient light of the steakhouse. Mark saw it immediately. He looked up and saw the air conditioning vent directly above her head. It was blasting freezing air right onto her neck. "You're freezing," Mark said, starting to stand up. He began to unbutton the heavy flannel shirt he was wearing over his tee. "No," Elena answered. Too fast. Too loud. She stopped, embarrassed by her own volume, and lowered her voice to a desperate whisper. "No, really. Mark, don't. I'm fine. I'm actually hot. I like the fresh air. Please, just sit down. Don't make a fuss. I'm totally fine right here." Mark stopped with one arm out of his sleeve. He looked at her blue lips. He looked at the hair standing up on her arms. He looked at the way she was rubbing her hands together under the table. She was lying. But she wasn't lying to deceive him. She wasn't lying to trick him out of money or hide a secret. She was lying to accommodate him. In Elena's mind, a terrifying equation was running in a loop. If I say I am cold, I am complaining. If I complain, I am a problem. If I am a problem, he won't like me. If he doesn't like me, I will be alone again. So, she chose to freeze. She chose physical pain over the risk of being a mild inconvenience. Mark slowly put his shirt back on. He sat down, but the warmth in his eyes had cooled. It wasn't anger. It was recognition. He knew exactly what this behavior was. He recognized the sickness. It was the disease of the good person. "Okay," Mark said, letting the issue of the cold slide for a moment. "Let's order. I'm starving." Elena opened the large leather menu. To her, it wasn't a list of delicious food. It was a minefield. Every option was a potential trap. Her eyes darted anxiously across the page. She looked at the ribeye steak. $45. Too expensive, she thought. If I order that, he'll think I'm a gold digger. He'll think I'm using him for a free meal. She looked at the spaghetti bolognese. $18. Too messy, her brain whispered. I'll get sauce on my face. I'll look gross while I'm eating. Men hate it when women look messy. She felt the panic rising in her throat, choking her. She looked over the top of her menu at Mark, trying to read his mind. She was desperate to know what he wanted her to be. Did he want a girl who eats meat? Did he want a salad girl? Did he want a cheap date? I haven't decided yet, Mark lied. He knew exactly what he wanted. He closed his menu and set it aside. You go first. Pick whatever looks good to you. Elena froze. The safety net was gone. She couldn't copy him if he didn't order first. She looked at the waiter, who was hovering nearby with a notepad. She felt the pressure of the silence. I'm not really that hungry, honestly, she murmured, closing the menu. But the body doesn't know how to lie as well as the mind does. At that exact second, Elena's stomach gave a loud, undeniable growl. It was the sound of hunger. It was the sound of a human being who hadn't eaten since breakfast because she wanted to look skinny in her dress. Her face turned a deep shade of crimson. She wanted to crawl under the table and die. I'll just have the house salad, she stammered, staring at the tablecloth. Dressing on the side, and a water with lemon. Mark stared at her. The salad. Yes, Elena forced a smile. I love salad. It's crisp, refreshing. Elena. Mark's voice dropped. It wasn't the polite voice of a first date anymore. It was the voice of a man who was tired of watching people hurt themselves. We have been sitting here for 40 minutes. You shivered for 20 of them. Your stomach is growling loud enough to be heard in the parking lot. And you are ordering a bowl of iceberg lettuce. Elena laughed, a hollow, tinkling sound that sounded like glass breaking. Oh, stop. I'm just low maintenance, Mark. That's me. I'm easy. I'm the chill girl. I don't need much. There it was, the phrase, low maintenance. Mark hated that phrase. He knew that low maintenance was just a polite way of saying, I have abandoned my own needs. He leaned forward, placing his elbows on the table, invading her personal space just enough to break her trance. He looked her dead in the eye. Stop doing that, he said. Doing what? Elena asked, her smile faltering. You're checking my face, Mark said. You're scanning me. Since you sat down, you have agreed with every single thing I've said. If I said the music was too loud, you nodded. If I said I liked the rain, you suddenly loved the rain, even though you just told me 10 minutes ago it makes you sad. You're auditioning, Elena. Elena felt the blood drain from her face. She felt naked, exposed. For 40 years, this had been her secret weapon. This was how she survived. This was how she navigated her critical father, her demanding boss, and her indifferent ex-husband. She became water, filling whatever container she was poured into. I'm I'm just easygoing, she whispered, her voice trembling. You're not easygoing, Mark said softly. You're terrified. He leaned back, rubbing his hand over his face. The hardness in his eyes evaporated, replaced by a deep, weary sadness. I'm not judging you, Elena. I can't judge you. Because I know exactly what you're doing. I know the script by heart. I did it for 12 years. Elena looked at him, confused. You? Me, Mark confirmed. My wife, she passed away 6 years ago. Cancer. Elena's hand went to her mouth. Oh, Mark, I'm so sorry. She was a good woman, Mark continued, staring at the candle on the table. But when she died, it wasn't just the grief that hit me. It was the silence. It was just me and my daughter, Maya. She was 10 years old at the time. Elena softened. 10. That's such a hard age to lose a mother. It was brutal, Mark said. And I kept trying to keep the peace, even after my wife was gone. I kept doing the things she liked, eating the food she liked, speaking softly like she preferred. I was trying to be the perfect, easygoing dad, just like I'd been the perfect husband. I was trying to keep the peace in a house that was already empty. Mark leaned in closer, lowering his voice. One morning, about a month after the funeral, I was standing in the kitchen, smiling, making toast, agreeing with everything. And Maya put her juice down. She looked at me. Kids see everything, Elena. And she said, Dad, why are you talking like that? You sound like a robot. Mark let out a breath, shaking his head at the memory. That broke me. My own kid called me out. She didn't need a butler who said yes to everything. She needed a father. She needed a human being with a pulse. That day, I promised myself I would never be a ghost again. For her sake, and for mine. He looked back at Elena, his eyes intense. You can't raise a child to be brave if you're too scared to be yourself, Elena. And you can't have a relationship with a reflection. Mark just hit on something that destroys so many relationships without us even noticing. We think we are being good partners by erasing our needs, but we are actually just withdrawing from the relationship. I want to ask you a serious question. Have you ever swallowed your own words, or hidden your true feelings just to keep the peace with someone you loved? And did it actually work, or did it just make you feel invisible? Let us know your story in the comments below. Let's talk about it. Back at the table, the silence was heavy. Elena was gripping her napkin like a lifeline. Mark took a deep breath. He looked at the menu on the table. Then he looked at his watch. I'm going to use the restroom, Mark said, standing up. He towered over the table, a solid, immovable object. I'll be back in 3 minutes. He paused, looking down at her. When I come back, the waiter is going to be here. You are going to order for us. But here are the rules. Elena's heart hammered against her ribs. Rules? Rule number 1, Mark counted on his finger. You cannot order the salad. You are hungry, Elena. I can hear it. So get real food. Rule number 2. You cannot order the cheapest thing on the menu just to save me money. I invited you. I can afford it. And rule number 3. Mark leaned down, his face inches from hers. You cannot order what you think I want. You have to order what you want. If I come back and there is a plate of dry leaves at this table, I'm asking for the check and taking you home. Not because I'm mean, but because I respect you too much to watch you starve yourself just to be low maintenance. He didn't wait for an answer. He turned and walked away, his heavy boots thumping against the wooden floorboards. Elena was left alone. Suddenly, the restaurant felt very loud. The safety buffer of Mark's presence was gone. The clinking of silverware, the laughter of a couple in the corner, the soft jazz music. It all rushed in at once. She looked at the empty chair opposite her. She looked at the menu. Her hands were shaking. It seems like such a small thing, doesn't it? Ordering dinner. But for Elena, this wasn't about steak or chicken. This was a war against 40 years of programming. She could hear her mother's voice in her head, clear as a bell. Don't be greedy, Elena. Men don't like gluttony. Order something small. Be a lady. She could hear her ex-boyfriend, Dave, the lawyer. God, you're always so complicated. Why can't you just be simple? She looked at the prices. Ribeye steak, $45. Her instinct screamed at her to retreat. Just order the chicken sandwich, her brain whispered. It's safe. It's mid-range. It's polite. But then she remembered Mark's face. She remembered what he said about his daughter calling him a robot. She imagined him trying to be perfect for a ghost. She realized she had been acting like a robot her entire adult life. The waiter approached the table. He was a young guy, looking tired, holding a digital pad. He looked at the empty seat where Mark had been. "Is the gentleman coming back?" the waiter asked. "Or are we ready to order?" Elena looked at the waiter. She looked at the door where Mark had disappeared. This was the crossroads. She could stay safe and invisible, or she could take up space. She swallowed hard. Her throat felt dry. "He's coming back," Elena said. Her voice was quiet. She cleared her throat and tried again, louder this time. "He's coming back." "Okay. What can I get for you?" Elena looked down at the menu one last time. She felt the cold draft from the air conditioner hitting her neck. She didn't pull her coat tight. She sat up straighter. "We're going to have the ribeye," she said. The waiter tapped his screen. "Okay. 1 ribeye for him. And for you?" Elena looked up. Her eyes flashed. "No. 2. 2 ribeyes. The big ones. Bone in." The waiter raised an eyebrow, impressed. "And how would you like those cooked?" The old Elena would have said medium well, because it's less messy, less primal. The new Elena took a breath. "Rare," she said. "Make it bloody, and bring a bottle of the Cabernet, the expensive one. If he doesn't drink it, I will." Mark returned a few minutes later. He sat down and looked at the empty table. He didn't ask what she ordered. He just waited. They sat in silence for 20 minutes. The tension in the air was thick enough to cut with a knife. Elena wondered if she had made a mistake. Maybe it was too much. Maybe she should have just ordered the salmon. Then, the waiter returned. He placed the plates down with a heavy clack against the wood. In front of Elena, there was no dainty bowl of greens. There was a massive, sizzling ribeye steak, charred on the outside, pink and juicy on the inside. Beside it, a mountain of garlic mashed potatoes and a glass of dark, heavy wine. Mark looked at his steak. Then he looked at hers. A slow, genuine grin spread across his face. He threw his head back and laughed. A loud, booming laugh that made the couple in the corner turn and look. "Now that," Mark said, slamming his hand on the table in approval, "is a dinner." He didn't make a big speech. He didn't congratulate her like a child. He simply treated her like an equal. He pointed his knife at her plate. "Eat," he said. "It's going to get cold." Elena picked up her knife. Her hand trembled slightly. She cut a piece. She put it in her mouth. The flavor exploded. Salt, fat, fire, wine. It was intense. It was real. She closed her eyes for a second. She wasn't just hungry for the meat. She was hungry for permission. Permission to want things. Permission to consume. Permission to enjoy. She took another bite. And another. She didn't wipe her mouth after every chew. She didn't check her lipstick in her reflection. She just ate. For the next 20 minutes, the perfect girlfriend vanished. The audition was paused. In her place was just a woman having dinner. Mark watched her. He didn't say much. He poured more wine into her glass when it got low. And as the level of wine in the bottle went down, the walls around Elena's heart began to lower with it. "My father used to say that a loud woman is an empty house," Elena said suddenly. The words just fell out of her mouth, unprompted. Mark set his glass down. He didn't interrupt. He provided for us. He never hit us. But silence can be louder than yelling, you know. Mark nodded. "Yeah, I know." "If I was too much," Elena said, her voice soft. "If I laughed too loud, or if I had an opinion he didn't like, he would just withdraw. He would look at me with this profound disappointment. So I learned the rules. I learned that love is conditional. You get love when you are good, and being good means being quiet." She looked up at Mark, her eyes glistening. "I've been auditioning for 40 years, Mark, trying to get the role of the good daughter. Because I thought if I played the part well enough, maybe he would finally look at me and see me." Mark reached across the table. He didn't grab her hand. That would have been too intimate, too fast. He simply placed his large open palm on the table between them. An anchor. "The problem with auditioning, Elena," Mark said, his voice rough with emotion, "is that even if you get the part, you spend the rest of your life terrified of getting fired." Elena stopped breathing for a second. That was it. That was exactly how she felt every day of her life. Don't get fired. Don't get dumped. Don't get rejected. Mark looked her dead in the eye. I can't fire you, Elena, because I didn't hire the actress. I'm having dinner with the woman who likes rare steak and expensive Cabernet. That's who I want to know. The actress? You can send her home. She's not needed here. It was a perfect moment. A fragile, beautiful moment of connection. But the world has a way of intruding. Bizizit. Elena's phone, which was face up on the table, lit up with a harsh white light. A message notification popped up. It was from her mother. Mom, are you still there? Remember what I told you about the check. Don't offer to pay, but reach for your purse. Do the dance. Make him feel like a man. Elena read the text. For a second, she felt a flash of deep, hot shame. She was 44 years old. She managed million-dollar contracts at work. And yet, here she was, receiving stage directions from her mother like a teenager on her first prom date. It was ridiculous. But the old panic flared up anyway. It was a reflex. The check dance. Every woman knows it. Every man knows it. The moment the bill comes, you reach for your purse, knowing you won't pay, but performing the gesture so the man can say, "No, I got it." It's a script, a fake, polite lie. Elena's hand twitched toward her purse. Her mother's voice was in her head. Don't be rude. Play the game. She looked at Mark. He had seen the phone light up. He saw the shift in her eyes. He saw the good girl trying to climb back into the driver's seat. Everything okay? Mark asked. This was the final test. Elena looked at the phone. Then she looked at the empty plate where the steak used to be. She felt full. She felt warm. She felt respected. Did she really want to end this night with a lie? The waiter appeared, silent as a ghost, and placed the black leather bill folder on the edge of the table. The air in the booth grew tight. Elena's hand hovered over her purse. Her muscles screamed at her to grab it. Instead, she pulled her hand away. She clasped her hands together on the table. Empty. It's fine, Elena said, her voice steady. My mom is just worrying. But I'm not. She looked at the check, then at Mark. Mark, she said, I'm not going to reach for my purse. Mark raised an eyebrow. Oh? No, Elena said. My mom told me to do the fake reach, to pretend I want to pay so you can tell me no. But I don't want to pretend anymore. Not with you. I can afford to pay for this dinner. But you asked me out. And I think the most honest thing I can do is say thank you and let you treat me, instead of insulting your intelligence with a fake fight over the bill. Silence stretched between them. For a second, Elena thought she had blown it. Too direct. Too bold. Then Mark's face cracked open into a grin. He grabbed the check. Thank God, Mark said. I hate the wallet dance. It's the worst part of dating. You stand there, fake fighting for 5 minutes. It's exhausting. He tossed his credit card onto the table without even looking at the total. Thank you, Elena, he said. For what? For letting you pay? No, Mark said softly. For trusting me enough to be honest. They walked out of the steakhouse and into the night. The storm had passed. The heavy, punishing rain had stopped, leaving the world scrubbed clean. Elena buttoned her beige coat. Usually, this was the part of the date she hated the most. The walk to the car. The evaluation period. In the past, her mind would be racing. Did I talk too much? Is he going to try to kiss me? She started to spiral. She glanced sideways at Mark. Then, she caught herself. Stop, she told herself. The show is over. They reached her car. Mark stopped. He dug his hands into the pockets of his jeans and turned to face her. Well, Elena said. She hated how small her voice sounded. Thank you for dinner. Mark nodded. I had a good time, Elena. The real kind of good time. Not the polite kind. He scuffed the toe of his boot against the wet pavement. You're darker than you look, Elena, he said suddenly. You've got some shadows. Elena's stomach dropped. Here it comes, she thought. The rejection. Good, Mark finished. I like shadows. Shadows give a room depth. A room with no shadows looks like a hospital waiting room. Bright, sterile, and fake. I'm not looking for a spotlight, Elena. I'm looking for a home, and real homes have shadows. He reached out and opened her car door for her. So, Elena said, trying to keep her voice light, I guess I'll see you around? This was the part where the man usually says, yeah, I'll give you a call sometime, which is code for, you will never hear from me again. Mark shook his head. No. Elena blinked. No? I'm not going to see you around, Mark said. And I'm not going to wait 3 days to call you. I know the rule. The 3-day rule. It's a game. He leaned in slightly. I have a teenage daughter at home, Elena. I run a business. When you're raising a kid alone, you learn pretty fast that time is the only thing you can't buy more of. So I don't waste it on games. I'm going to call you tomorrow, at noon, on my lunch break, and I'm going to ask you to go to a movie. Certainty. That was what he was offering her. Not butterflies, not mystery. Certainty. Elena smiled, and for the first time in 20 years, the smile reached her eyes. Deal, she whispered. I'll answer. She got into the car. As she drove away, she looked in the rearview mirror. Mark was still standing there, watching her car to make sure she got out of the spot safely. Elena drove away that night, knowing the truth. True love isn't an audition, it's a recognition. Of course, we all change over time. We drop habits we don't like, and we pick up new ones we love. That is part of life, but that change has to be for you. It has to be your choice, not just a costume you wear to please people you barely even know. If you believe you are worthy of love exactly as you are, hit that like button and subscribe. It helps these stories reach the people who need them most. If you watched until the end, write the phrase, I'm just being myself, in the comments so I know you liked it. See you in the next story.